Hello, trumpet players. I have a little bit of time before my next lesson, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about driving straight through your sound. When I was young, in I think maybe elementary school, I used to sit in the back seat of the car, watch my father drive, and we did a lot of long distance driving back in those days, back and forth across the country. And I remember sometimes when the roads were long and straight, I would look at my father driving and notice that he's doing this with the steering wheel. If we're going straight, and we were going straight, right? Um, Going straight down the road, and he's turning the wheel. Why? Well, of course, now that I'm older, I understand that. In order to stay straight, you have to make adjustments as you go. And that, I've always used that as a metaphor for how getting a good sound works. So I have a very different approach to getting a good sound than most of the people now I don't want to sound like I've heard all of the different ways to get a good sound that exist. I'm not saying that. But of the people I've heard talk on this topic, the way I teach this is very, very, very different. Because I don't think it's as simple as do this and you'll get a good sound, or do that and you'll get a good sound. The problem is that what you do while you're playing has to adjust in the same way that you adjust when you're driving to keep straight. Let that sink in a little bit. It's not just, okay, do this one thing, and now, bam, you have a good sound. That's not how it works. Everything that I've ever heard someone say, this is how you get a good sound, if you do too much of that thing or not enough of that thing, you won't get a good sound. So it's true with, for example, people say, well, just put more air into it. Well, if you put too much air into it, the balance is off and you will not get a good sound. If you the relaxing thing, we've already talked about relaxing. You can click up here to see what I have to say about relaxing. It's possible to relax too much. So yes, the things that we do to get a good sound on the trumpet are, the word that we should use is dynamic. It's constantly changing, just like the road surface is dynamic. The way the tires are built, the way the car is built, the way the roads are built, there's no such thing as just holding the steering wheel in one spot and expecting the car to go straight down the road. And yet, a lot of people approach getting a good sound on the trumpet exactly like that. Do this, hold it right there because that gives you a good sound. I disagree. That's not how you get a good sound. The way you get a good sound, here's the formula for a good sound. First, you have to have a good sound in your ears or you'll never get a good sound. Okay, I should back up. Okay, that's hyperbole. I'm exaggerating. Sorry about that. You might get a good sound sometimes, but you won't have any control over it. Okay? So and I think this is what happens with a lot of students, right? Their teacher says, this is how you get a good sound. And they can kind of emulate that physical action because that's what, I think that's how most teachers teach good sound. Do this with your body, do that with your body. And doing those things gives you a good sound. I'm sorry. Even if you could get a good sound, and I guess some people do, could get a good sound that way, it's not dynamic. So when the conditions change, there goes your good sound. So the formula, have a good sound in your ears first. Know what you want to sound like. And the only way you can do that is by listening, 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 and listening. Did I say listening? You have to, and the people you want to listen to, the higher up, the better, right? So, and I'm going to say this. I know that we've talked about this in some of the other videos. I have a playlist here, and you can get it directly from my website at eddielewis.com, but I have a playlist here that I put together for my students because I want them to listen to great trumpet players. And it's got a mixture of styles. Some of it's classical, some of it's jazz, some of it's more ethnic stuff. That's where you start. You also need to listen to as many live great trumpet players as possible. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that a medium level trumpet player, and when I say medium, I mean medium in a professional sense, so whoever your local professional trumpet players are, it's better to listen to them live than to listen to the best trumpet player in the world on a recording. That's going to be better for your sound. Now, what's even better listening is when you're on a gig and the person that you're listening to is sitting right next to you, playing the same music you are. That is by far the best listening you can do. But the problem is we don't get enough of that, and we don't get enough of the live performances, so we saturate ourselves during the rest of the time. We saturate our ears with the recordings. And you live in a time now that is blessed beyond imagination, right? You can listen to anybody you want to at any time. I didn't have that. The people who, pre-internet days, we never had that. We had to work hard to even have access to great trumpet playing. So for you, there's no excuse, all right? So that's the first step. Then the second step is to know the basic mechanics of how to get a good sound. And when I say that, I'm talking about stuff like don't use too much pressure, um, practice your long tones. Now I don't do static long tones. We can talk about that in a different video. But yes, long tones, having a routine, doing a warm up, those are part of the mechanics of how you get a good sound. Another part of the mechanics is making sure you know how to play in tune. If you play out of tune, you will not get a good sound, period. So step 2, know the mechanics. And I'm not going to cover all of that in the lesson today. There's plenty of videos out there right now that talk about the mechanics of how to get a good sound. But even with those two combined, it still doesn't work, right? If you're not adjusting while you play. So here's what's got to happen. So step 3 is you need to have a feedback loop while you're playing. And it's constantly while you're playing. It's not just samples here and there. No, the whole time you're playing. Just like, because, when you're driving, I love this driving analogy, right? Let's say the road, you're in like Nebraska or something, and the road is straight for 100 miles. You don't get to just hold the wheel in one position and only look at the road every 3 minutes or so. That's not going to work. So it's not good enough to listen to what's coming out of your bell in, every 5 measures or whatever. No. You listen constantly to what's coming out of your bell. And as you're listening, You adjust. You say to yourself, uh-oh, that note sounds a little bit balanced in that way, so let's pull the wheel back this way. Uh-oh, that note sounds a little bit too balanced on that side. Let's pull the wheel back this way. Constantly. That's happening constantly. There's never a time when a good trumpet player isn't doing that. We do it subconsciously. Once you get used to doing this after a while, it's subconscious. It's not conscious anymore. But that's exactly what's happening. That's I would be extremely surprised to find out that there's a trumpet player that has a great sound that doesn't do what I just described. You absolutely must. So the way I like to see it is in your head you have this image of what you want to sound like, an aural image. And as you're driving, so let's say that that image is center in your head, and as you're driving through your sound and you hear the sound depart from that image, you need to adjust and bring it back. And then it departs over the other way. You need to adjust and bring it back. That's how you get a great sound. And if you can't listen to your own playing while you're playing, you don't have the control over the sound that you need to have to be a great trumpet player. And you know what? I think this is where technique practice comes in. Because if you don't have the technique to play what you're playing, then all of your resources, your mental resources, go into just being able to play the music. And that's when the listening feedback loop falls apart. Because now you're not listening. You're too distracted by the technique problems and you can't listen because you're so, you know what the word is? Overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed with the technique and you can't do this adjustment stuff while you're playing because it's way over your head. So there's a, you know, when I talk about my tonalization studies, you can link to that here. And I say that there's so many things about the tonalization studies that you know, so many benefits. That's one of the benefits is you're going to get more technique because you're practicing the scales, and the scales are what most music is built out of. So fewer and fewer of your mental resources have to go into playing the music, the more competent you become with the scales. Does that make sense? So if you want to have a great sound, in order to have this constant feedback loop, and I'm going to stress one more time, and I know it sounds like a broken record, constant feedback loop. There's never a time when you're not thinking about it, but you can't think about it if you're overwhelmed with technique problems. So there's a huge argument. You know, there's a lot of people say, well, I don't want to practice technique stuff because I just want to be one of those guys with a great sound. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Don't play any hard music. And what I mean by hard is let's not play any hard key signatures. Let's not play any hard time signatures. Let's not do anything that goes high or low or fast or slow, right? Some people don't know that it's harder to play slow than it is to play fast. But that's another video, okay? Anyway, that's what I have for you. I call this concept driving straight through your sound. And I'm going to leave you with that visual in your head one more time. Just let this sink in. As we're playing, we listen to what's coming out of the bell and we adjust. If it doesn't sound good, we adjust until it does sound good. That's how you get a great sound, okay? If you have any questions about what I'm saying here, please feel free to ask below. Other than that, God bless you, and we will see you on the next video.